In our previous episode, we explored the hero's journey, the mythic pattern the mythologist Joseph Campbell described as a universal pattern from immaturity to responsibility and service. But for many women, that heroic framework never quite told the whole story. Psychotherapist and author Maureen Murdock began to notice this in her own work. She observed that many women's developmental journeys looked different. Instead of simply leaving home to conquer the world, they often began by separating from the feminine, distancing themselves from parts of their identity in order to succeed within systems shaped by masculine values. The heroine's journey describes the long process of reclaiming what was left behind, rediscovering relationship, intuition, embodiment, and eventually integrating both the masculine and feminine within the self. In this episode, Charmaine and I explore what that journey can look like in modern life and why so many people, regardless of gender, find themselves navigating this path of return and integration. Thanks for joining us on this episode, and now the heroine's journey. Well, heroine's journey.
The heroine's journey. Yes.
I'm so grateful you're here with me because I think you are the pro on this one.
Oh, I appreciate that blind faith.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd call it blind.
Well, I don't know if I'd call it anything else. We try.
Sure. I do think it's important to look at, though, because the heroine's journey is different than the hero's journey. There is a lot of overlap.
Yes.
And I think it's important that we acknowledge that the journey of the feminine is different than the journey of the masculine.
Yes.
Rather than trying to say all the world is a masculine journey.
Yes. Yes. I think that is so important. I think it's also really important to acknowledge, too, that when we talk about the masculine and the feminine journeys, we're talking about archetypes, right? Which don't always align with gender. Right. The masculine and the feminine archetypes are different from a presentation of gender. I mean, a lot of times they do align, but again, they're just archetypes. They're not set in stone. If you're a woman, this is the journey you must go on to self. In fact, as I was reading through this, I kept thinking over and over again, you being a man, introducing this to me and saying, hey, let's talk about this. Let's have this conversation, and seeing really how you have embodied the heroine's journey was such a fun experience for me in reading about it and learning more about it. And yeah, just how much I wished more men experienced this heroine's journey that Maureen Murdock talks about.
Well, I'm really curious to hear what you come up with on that, because I don't know that I'm curious because I think you see that differently than I see it, and so I want to see your perspective on it.
Okay, what do you mean?
Oh, I just, as they say, the eye cannot see itself.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I don't know that when I read the heroine's journey, I don't know that I was picturing this as how have I experienced this journey?
Really?
But I will say that in Maureen Murdock's preface, I really appreciated the way she challenged the cultural model of the hero's journey.
Right.
And the way that so many people talking about it, they talk about it in two primary ways. One is they talk about it as a writing system.
Right.
Which makes sense because Joseph Campbell was analyzing mythic story.
Mm-hmm.
And the other way people talk about it is that the hero's journey is linear.
Mm-hmm. I
guess they also talk about it as an external journey.
Yes.
And if it is a mythic journey, then it is also none of those things.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, you can use it as a storytelling device, but myth is intrinsically inwardly focused. It's the storehouse of lost knowledge that needs to be contained and maintained for solving problems that we don't have the answers to.
Right. The myth, the archetype, the symbolism is a way to understand ourselves, our society, what it is to be human, all of that other stuff, which Maureen Murdock does talk about. In fact, I love that she points out human being, right? Rather than doing or anything else, but just being and existing and experiencing, and how important that is to this heroine's journey, to the journey to self.
Which I absolutely love that contrast. And I also love the way that I feel like she finds the peace that is so necessary and needed for much of healing the cultural wounds that we carry around.
Yes, which is so relevant today, which is interesting because Maureen Murdock wrote this in the 90s. And as a reflection of some of the struggles of womanhood, of the feminine, of the patriarchy and how it inflicts wounds on the feminine parts of all of us, right? And that was reflective of what was happening in the 90s. And here we are seeing a lot of these things play out again today. So I think it's great time for this.
I love it. Particularly, it's like the feminine is so essential to wholeness individually, culturally.
Yes.
And it has been repressed in Western society.
Yes.
Around the world in so many ways.
Yes.
And I do feel like the heroine's journey helps us to be able to see that more clearly and see how it is that we can use this mythic journey to access that piece of all of us individually and collectively that's so necessary.
Right. Okay, so broad overviews of the heroine's journey that I picked up on was that it's a healing of the connection to the feminine within, healing that mother wound. It's also in finding I can't remember what she calls it, but the masculine, the kind masculine or the compassionate masculine within also, and healing that relationship. It's about healing the relationship to connection between ourselves and others, that I-thou relationship, and our connection to nature and to the earth. What did you see as the broad themes, overviews of the heroine's journey?
Yeah, that really resonates with what I saw, is that healing the mother-daughter split, and also the way that the masculine is a part of healing, but is not the entirety of the healing process.
Yes.
And so there is the need to heal the inner feminine, to integrate the inner masculine. There is and I love the way that it connects that to the connection to the goddess, right? And then embodying that divine feminine in the world.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, okay. So another thing that I noticed when it was talking a lot about the internalized masculine and the shadow side of that internalized masculine, I kept seeing what I would call, and what I have called with a lot of my clients and everybody else, is what I call internalized capitalism. This drive to prove, to have, to say, here's my worth, and it can be calculated by these means. And what she called that like masculine and that patriarchy, I have been for years calling internalized capitalism.
Right, which I think is an interesting and also appropriate way to look at it. The emphasis on the quantitative.
Yes.
Emphasis on the metrics. Like, can I make a spreadsheet that calculates my value?
Yes. Yes. Okay, so she specifically talks about how this heroine's journey happens after we achieve this like masculine prize, right? When we have succeeded in the world in all of the ways that our Western society tells us are successful, right? Which then when we get that and we don't feel that worth, we don't feel that value, we're still missing something, then that prompts the heroine's journey. Okay, so I had this question though, as I was reading that, and I feel like I know the answer, but this is the question as I was reading it, was what if we don't ever achieve that? Can this heroine's journey still be initiated?
I would say yes.
I mean, I would hope yes.
And I would say yes, because even if we're not achieving external, measurable financial success, there is still the lack of satisfaction in over-identifying with that process.
Yeah.
Of living in an armored up way.
Right.
Of being the I want to say her term was like being the father's daughters.
Yes.
And in looking for allies to support you in that quest, I think eventually, regardless if you do achieve that financial metric that you're looking for, there is going to be a moment or a period of time where there's a realization that there's something missing.
Yeah.
It's not doing it. The journey, regardless of where you're at, it's not satisfying the inner call.
Yeah. I totally and completely agree. I think that's excellent. But yeah, okay. So when we find that lacking, that's then what prompts the heroine's journey. So let's start.
I just suddenly felt so called out.
Well, okay, good.
But I do wonder, I mean, from your perspective, how does somebody recognize that? Like, what does it look like? What does it feel like when the call is being given, like to like begin the journey?
So Maureen Murdock specifically talks about depression, which coming from a therapist, right? And her being a Jungian analyst and a Jungian psychotherapist, the depression is the call. The depression is to look at the missing thing in her views, is specifically to the heroine's journey, that instead of like turning toward the maybe more masculine or Western societal view of curing the depression, of curing the dis-ease, rather experiencing it and feeling it and diving into it to see what is there.
What is the cause of the depression?
Right, right.
What is the thing that is missing that is leading us to feel depressed?
Right.
Which makes a lot of sense. It's interesting. One of the things that comes to mind when I think about that is someone that I was working with who does struggle with depression, and it can be quite severe, and comes in one day and was like, I really want to process this dream that I had. And the dream was all about union with the feminine.
Ooh, okay, yeah.
And I find this often, like even for myself, like when depression is increasing, I often find that underneath there is some lacking component that we might culturally like classify as a more feminine aspect.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's specifically what she talks about is experiencing the depression, experiencing that wanting, that lack, that whatever it is, the discomfort of experiencing it rather than medicating it or masking it or whatever else. And that there's real beauty and value in that experiencing of it.
Yeah. Which is powerful because if the depression is, if there's wisdom in depression.
Yes.
If we say experience this for a reason, it's not a thing that is wrong with me. It's a thing that is communicating with me.
Yes.
Then by listening to it, we hear the wisdom of it.
Yes.
And it becomes a guide.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Which isn't to say that, medications and the different things that we do to help ease some of that aren't helpful. They absolutely are. When we go on a journey, we take tools to help us along the way, right? We've got our hiking boots, we've got our walking sticks, we've got our backpacks full of snacks and water and whatever else. We need those tools along the journey. And sometimes medication is that tool. We just want to make sure it's not getting rid of the journey, right? We're not engaging in some sort of bypass like we've talked about to avoid those deeper lookings.
Which is so easy, right? Because depression's so uncomfortable.
It really is.
Oh, nobody enjoys feeling that way.
No. Yeah, no, it's awful. She talks about too that like often this journey is, yes, prompted by depression's that call to look inward, but that it often happens in suffering, right? If we are in grief, if we have lost a job, if we have lost a family member, if, there's been some big shift or move, that some kind of grief often will prompt this like looking inward, whatever it is.
So the real initiation comes when we are feeling that like depressing experience.
Yeah, the dark night of the soul, which has been written about for centuries.
Yes. Well, it's so prevalent. And it's also something that we have, I think, culturally been told to bypass.
Yeah.
Get out of it as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we're really set up as a society, as a culture, to allow people that hibernation time, right? We talk about going into the cave. We talk about the transformation from the caterpillar to the butterfly, that our society is not really set up. I mean, we have some supports available for an inward journey, for a time of rest, for taking time off work, whatever, but it's generally frowned upon. And so having that time to do that and the support of our communities doesn't really exist right now.
True. Especially, I think, in part because our society is so oriented to left brain processes.
Right.
We're still very oriented towards productivity, like measurable, visible productivity.
Right.
Individual accomplishment.
Right.
We're looking at quantitative measuring. We're looking at this left brain processes. And this journey is the complete opposite.
Yeah.
This is an inward experience. It's a qualitative experience. And you can't really medicate your way up. Medication is not going to work you through this.
Yeah. No, it's not.
Right? It might stabilize you.
Which is helpful for the journey. And oftentimes we need that.
Right.
Right. But it's not going to do that journey for you.
Yeah. And it can be really helpful, I think, in similar ways to what we talked about with the hero's journey of we need people who can be there to guide and hold space and be mentors for us to help us see what's happening.
Yes, absolutely. Which this is another thing that I've noticed so much in the realm of depth psychology and Jungian analysis. It is so focused on connection to community, connection to nature, connection to ourselves and those around us, that those themes keep showing up over and over again, that the journey inward, the journey to the unconscious, to a deeper levels of being and more authentic self is a journey to connection.
Which is so powerful. It's so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. But that we need those communities. And that specifically is part of the heroine's journey. She talks about how the circle is the symbolism for the feminine, right? And that sitting in circle, that including people in circle, that is the finding of the divine feminine.
Yeah, which that makes sense, right? The masculine image is not round. It's not circular.
Right.
It's the boardroom table.
Yeah. Yes. Yep, it is.
Where there is a shift that happens when we sit in the round. It's interesting. It makes me think of the myth, like the Arthurian myth of the round table.
Right.
Where Merlin actually created the round table in partnership with the earth.
Yeah.
And so everybody sat in the round, but the group had to accept you as worthy to sit at the table. But then if you sat at the table when you were not properly initiated, the earth opened and swallowed you up.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's so interesting though that part of this is the shoulder to shoulder quality, but also that the earth is a partner in and that it is magical in nature.
Yeah.
Where I think we don't often talk about the round table in that way. We talk about putting the weapons down. We talk about sitting as equals,
right?
Which is a powerful piece.
100%.
And the thing that allowed that to happen is the magic of the earth that was partnered with.
Yeah,
in the
I love
creation of
that.
that space.
Yeah, I love that. The partnership with the earth, and that in partnering with the earth, there's this level of magic to it. Yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
Love you, Merlin.
Yes. Thanks.
Well, so we acknowledge, we recognize, I have grief that is either being experienced or needs to be experienced. I'm feeling the depression. I'm feeling the lack of satisfaction in the day-to-day grind.
Yes.
I was also interested in the way that the beginning also leads us into the rejection of the feminine,
Yeah.
and then the over relatedness to the masculine.
Right. Right. That we're seeking this masculine prize, right? We're trying to get our place in the world, our acknowledgement, our validation. And we're doing that as daughters, father's daughters, right? We're trying to, which this is so from a person who was raised as a girl, who grew up as a girl, who has existed as a woman in trying to do all the things I'm doing. I can tell you absolutely, being a teenager in the 90s, being told I wasn't like other girls, highest compliment I could have received, right? And I think Maureen Murdock talks about her being told that she didn't think like a woman, she thought like a man, and that being a great compliment when she was a student. Like, absolutely, this experience of disconnecting us from the feminine happens all around us. I mean, it's happening for men too, and people who are raised as boys. That happens all the time, being told, like, you're not supposed to cry, you're not supposed to have emotions, don't be a sissy, whatever else. We're all being severed from our internal feminine.
And it's so destructive.
It is so destructive. It's so destructive for all of us. But yes, so the journey is that disconnecting, that severing of the feminine in each of us, and realizing that, understanding that it has been severed, seeing all of the ways it has been severed, and seeing how that's reflected in society too, in our culture that is so disconnected from the earth, right? The earth is feminine, Mother Earth, that's what we call her, Gaia. Being separated from that is a reflection of that internalized separation from the feminine.
Which I love that as an indicator of the separation.
Yeah.
If I feel disconnected from the earth.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are definitely times when I feel less inclined to be in wild nature. Like in the summertime in Arizona, I don't typically want to be outside.
It's not great.
Because I feel like I'm on the surface of the sun.
It's not great. It's actually bad for us.
Right. And also, there are times when I've noticed that I just wasn't super interested in being outside. Like I wasn't interested in having nature-oriented experiences.
Yeah.
And I also distinctly remember when I realized that that was happening.
Yeah.
And then when I went and I started to seek those out, it was very healing.
Yeah.
And really shifted my whole trajectory.
Yeah.
Where I was moving towards like government and or business work and being like a super high achiever and like getting like this like certain qualification of proficiency and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then it was like, I don't really care about any of that anymore. I don't care as much about making money as I used to.
Yeah.
Really, I want to have quality experiences that are connected to the earth where I walk away feeling grounded and centered and whole.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful and amazing. See, look at you on the heroine's journey. Love it. Okay, so the other thing she talks about is duality being another like indicator of this separation from the feminine, right? The I, it versus the I, thou, right? We see it in politics. We see it in nationalism. We see it in race relations. We even see it in the relations between gender, right? Being so separate. Men are supposed to be this way. Women are supposed to be this way. There's no in between. There's no swapping of roles. There's no ambiguity. We see this over and over again in so many different ways, but it's the I, it, I versus anything else being it. Whereas the higher, hopefully more evolved way of thinking is the I, thou, right? That we are all connected. We are all a part of each other. Nature, animal, human, everything is interconnected.
Which is so interesting too in the language because like the use of thou, like the thou, like that actually, if we like trace backwards in time, is actually an expression of intimacy.
Right.
There's an intimate closeness of acceptance.
Right. A respect, an intimacy, all of that.
Versus it is very much an othering.
Right.
Which, I mean, I think the most drastic experience of that I've experienced is the type of conditioning that you do in the military before you go to combat.
Yeah.
Where there is a dehumanizing experience so that you can actually do your job.
Right.
And overcome like the inner phobia that we have
right.
of violence against another human.
Right.
But if I dehumanize them, if they're no longer human,
right.
if they're an other,
yes,
if they're an alien or they're one of those people,
yes,
then I can say whatever I want to say. I can do whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
Because they're not human.
Which this is what we're seeing, I think, in our politics today. This is what has gotten us so divided, is the dehumanizing of the other side, which is so heartbreaking. And I will admit I am as guilty of it as maybe not as anybody else, but still guilty of it on occasion. This othering, that the other side is less human for X, Y, or Z, whatever reasons I come up with, or whatever reasons they come up with as to why I'm less human, less deserving of autonomy, of rights, of compassion, anything. It's happening over and over again. And that is such an important indicator of the disconnect from the internal feminine.
It really is. Anytime we find ourselves categorizing, labeling,
right,
dismissing, othering,
right,
that's a good indicator for us to know something's off.
Yes.
Here. There's a split that's happened.
Yes. Okay, so let's bring this back around to the severing of the mother-daughter relationship. Because I think this is, classic Freudian, like we've all got issues with our mothers, right? And that's what leads to all of our discomfort. But I think in this othering, it's sometimes really hard to have compassion for the other when there has been, when it's a close relationship, like a mother-daughter, like a father-son, like any kind of familial relation and intergenerational. Sometimes it can be really hard to have compassion for those that have raised us that didn't do a great job.
It can be.
Yeah.
I really connect to that.
Yeah. So what do we do?
Well, I mean, aside from saying just go to therapy,
yes,
which can help, right? But there is, and I like one of the things that Maureen Murdock talks about, but in here in the seeking of allies, now she's describing it on the front end of the journey, where when the daughter distances from the mother, how disconcerting that is, and then there's a seeking of the father and or father-like allies.
Yes.
But I do think that there is some wisdom to that of seeking allies. But in this instance, I would say seeking out people that can help us view the humanity of our parent with compassion.
Yes.
So, for example, my relationship with my own mother is pretty, what's the word I want to say? It's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a struggle.
The struggle is very real.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of the way that she would parentify or like twist the story of what happened.
Yeah.
Like minimize and justify and belittle and shame and all of these things.
Yeah.
And then I remember when I learned about some of the things that she had experienced as a kid.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's like being locked in a closet.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Or physical abuse or emotional abuse or having like an alcoholic parent figure.
Right.
And in my mom's instance, the alcoholic was her mom.
Yeah.
So like my mom never had that experience of motherly nurturing from her own mother.
Right.
And in fact, had a very abusive relationship with her mom.
Right.
And so it actually made it so that when I looked at my mom, when I realized that, which required the help of other people, I couldn't do it on my own.
Yep.
It allowed me to have a lot more compassion.
Yeah.
To say, okay, your history doesn't like it doesn't like wipe the slate clean.
But it gives us context.
Right. I can see that you came by it honestly.
Yes.
You showed up at 100% capacity.
Yes.
Which wasn't what I really needed.
Right.
If for me to have a healthy relationship with her.
Right.
And also, I don't think she could have, like, I don't think she was actually capable of more than she gave. I think she really gave every ounce that she had.
Right.
But for me, I couldn't see that until I had somebody else help me see it.
Yes, 100%. I think that's so important that, like, even if we don't understand all of the aspects of what have happened to our parents and where they've come from, whatever else, if we can approach it with compassion, if we can approach the relationship, if we can approach them and understand that a lot of the dysfunction they gave to us was given to them and to their parents before them, and so on and so on. Right? That each of us are hopefully doing a little bit better than the generation before. We've learned a little bit more, we've grown, whatever. But if we can approach that with compassion and curiosity, we're gonna be put so much further ahead in the game if we can do that.
Definitely. And it really helps if we can, like when we do this, if we can take a step back and frame things without putting our present, like our present way of experiencing the world on top of it.
Right.
So if I know that my parents were born in like the 50s, the 50s were a really different time.
Yep.
If I were to assess the way that my grandparents parented in the 50s with the way that I see parenting in 2026, I'd say, wow, you're horrific, horrible people.
Of course.
And also, in the 50s, did they know differently?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I wasn't alive in the 50s.
Yeah.
So I can say, well, what was the norm like?
Right.
Can I see this in a way that says, okay, I can have some compassion for what that experience was like. I can also look and say, like, what do I know stories about other people in my kind of like family lineage? What were they like? And it's like, well, if my great grandfather was like this, what must it have been like for my grandfather?
Yeah.
Okay. What do I know about my grandfather? Okay. What would have been like for my dad to be in that household?
Yeah.
And so I can use kind of like time and space without imposing my way of seeing the world on top of it.
Right.
And then I can also frame it up in context and say, what must it have been like to be in that house?
Right. Okay. So healing that severance from the mother is a matter of compassion and curiosity. I mean, if I'm putting it in 140 characters or less.
Yes.
That's how I would frame it.
Yeah, I love that.
Which doesn't exclude setting boundaries, cutting ties, whatever else we need to do. That compassion and curiosity is for us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
It doesn't excuse anybody. It doesn't justify anything that they've done.
Right.
But it allows us to be able to move forward in our own journey.
Right. Okay. I love that. Because I tell you what, there was a moment of rage when it felt like the burden of healing the mother was on the daughter, which I don't think that that's what Maureen Murdock was trying to say. But we each see things through the lenses we see things through.
Right. There's the inner mother that we are healing.
Yes.
Because we can't actually heal the outer mother.
Yes. Oh, such a great way of putting it. Because you're absolutely right. We can't heal our mothers. We can heal ourselves. And in healing ourselves, that creates space for others to heal themselves, right? But it's not actually our job to heal our mothers.
Right.
Yeah.
And I also, in looking at this, I do think something that she talks about that is really important to just note in the difference between the hero's journey and the heroine's journey. When we talk about this, there is the differentiation that's happening, like the split that's happening, the wound that we are going to need to heal. When we are differentiating from mother, one of the things that Maureen Murdock talks about is that for the daughter, she's differentiating from the parent, like the most, like the like parent. For the son, he's differentiating from the unlike parent and moving towards the like parent. So it's the opposite.
Right.
So for the daughter to separate from mother
Right.
will drive her to the father.
Yep.
For the son to separate from mother drives him to the father.
Right.
And so now all of a sudden it really, and that feels very difficult and different to me.
Okay. Say more.
Well, so if the hero's journey is a masculine journey,
Right.
okay, and the son goes to the father,
Right.
there is an implication here that the son is going to the guide of masculinity.
Right.
The daughter is going to the guide of masculinity by separating from the mother.
Right.
Instead of the guide of femininity, like the
Right.
guide of the feminine.
Right.
Which I like that. Just there's an internal experience for me of like that feels really hard.
Yeah.
Where you're like being forced into it makes a lot of sense that you would have this experience of father's daughters, right? Of stepping into the world of patriarchy if the father figure is embroiled within the patriarchal concept.
This, I think we see also in the concept of God, right? Because we have generally, for most people who exist on this earth today, it's an Abrahamic religion, right? Which means that it's a one God religion, and that God is masculine. And that has been the case for the past few thousand years, right? And I heard somebody say once, when God is man, then man is God. Right? It is this idea of all of us moving away from the feminine to the masculine, finding that value in being more of this archetypal masculine, which is a severance from that feminine, which is a severance of our connections to each other, our connections to, I'm just reiterating myself over and over again here, but it's so heartbreaking to see this in the work that we do, people coming into our offices being so disconnected from others, from themselves, from what that archetypal feminine could bring to them.
I agree.
Yeah, it's rough.
It is. And when you see the healing begin, it is so powerful.
It really is. Yeah. I had this thought as I was reading too about, so this is called the heroine's journey, right? And we're talking a lot about the archetypal feminine. And I think that there are very few men today who have done the heroine's journey, right? Who have experienced that dark night of the soul and come out more connected to their feminine. Like I think everybody has a dark night of the soul at some point in their life, but coming out of that more connected to your feminine, I think is fairly rare for men. And I don't know if this is the case or not, but the thought occurred to me was that it might be easier for women, and this is a weird thing to say, that they might have privilege in this place of being less privileged.
How so?
Because we're not ever going to achieve what the greatest, and I'm using air quotes around that, greatest man could achieve in our society today. Like we can achieve great things, and there are more women CEOs now than there ever have been. We've got more women billionaires than there ever have been, but there's still an imbalance there. Men are still getting more privilege and more praise from succeeding in that archetypal masculine world.
True.
Right? And so the privilege for women there is that I'll never do enough. I'll never be enough. I'll never reach the highest levels. So that turning inward to find what's missing, I think is just a little bit easier for women.
Like if I'm understanding, like in the way that the world is consistently telling you, you're not enough.
Yes.
It encourages the inner looking.
Yes, I think so.
That's a really interesting perspective.
Yeah. I don't know if it's accurate or not, but it was my thought as I was reading this.
Right. There could be a social lever that is naturally inclining towards helping the feminine to look within.
Yeah, maybe.
That's interesting. I'd be curious to hear people's experience on that.
Yeah, I would be too.
I hadn't thought about it in that way, but I could see that.
Yeah. I think if we're looking at patterns, right, I just honestly don't know that many men who are connected to the inner feminine, who have embraced it, who have really tried to, have that union of masculine and feminine within them, right? And I gotta wonder if it's something in the way that we are socialized.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, for men especially, I mean, the hero's journey, you have the marriage to the goddess,
Right.
Which is in the underworld portion of the hero's journey.
Right.
And it's really hard for men to go there.
Yeah.
Because you're trained from as early as I can remember to completely reject the feminine.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like in the hero's journey, that marriage to the goddess is another like treasure. And it's not a true union of the internalized feminine.
Okay, I could see that.
Yeah. Whereas it's like I've got the beautiful goddess. I've married the princess. I have this beautiful thing that I can now show. Look at what I've done.
Right.
Look at what I've achieved.
Yeah. And if we look at that experience through a similar lens of the heroine's journey, and we say, if we were to put these two next to each other, and we say, what does the union with the goddess look like if we consider it through embracing the archetypal feminine? How does that change the experience?
Right. The union with the goddess in the heroine's journey is that connection piece. Right? We're connecting to nature. We're connecting to earth. We're connecting to each other. Right? We're getting rid of the duality in that. I feel like, and I could be totally wrong. And again, I see things through the lens that I see things, but I feel like in the hero's journey, the union with the goddess, there's still duality.
I could see that. Yeah. And I think especially the way that it is explained often.
Yeah.
Which would make sense because a lot of the people who do explain the hero's journey are coming from it through that kind of patriarchy lens.
Yeah.
Where I feel like if we do look at it through the mythic lens, then we shift it from the boy getting the treasure.
Yes.
To the integrating the feminine.
I mean, ideally.
Right.
Yeah.
And if we pivot back to the way, like kind of the way it's worded around the hero's journey of like, we're rescuing the damsel, we're rescuing the princess.
Right.
Right. I think about like Rapunzel's Tower or Sleeping Beauty or whatever it is, where we're going through these trials to go and get the beautiful princess we're going to marry.
Right.
From like the boyhood fantasy, it is very objectified.
Yes.
And if we put it on the lens of what would a male scholar look at this like in the 80s and 90s?
Yes.
It's going to be an objectified experience there too.
Yeah.
And also if we frame it mythically, we're saying, wait a second. Why is the princess asleep?
Yeah.
Why is the princess in the tower?
Yeah.
Because it's actually a part of us that has been severed
and
rejected, and we're reintegrating through the sacred union of oneness.
I 100% agree with that. And I feel like so few, in fact, I cannot think of a single one off the top of my head, male scholars and philosophers have framed it that way. It is instead a prize to be won, rather than an archetype to be incorporated and personified.
Right. Which is totally the wrong way.
I agree. I could not agree more. And this is why I'm confident you have done the heroine's journey.
Right. Well, and I do think I would really love to look at this through the lens of like, okay, if the union with the goddess, because this is so interesting that it is in both.
Yeah.
And it is explained a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And I think in part because Maureen Murdock, in the way that she saw the hero's journey, like she saw all of the shadow that was present in the way that it was being taught and explained.
Yes.
And I feel like she then presents it from a more holistic, like a more true to like myth way of seeing the union with the goddess.
Yeah.
So I'm curious then, if it is in both places, how does the heroine's journey look at it to get from, I have a severance with the mother, I've now over-identified with the father, how do I then get to the goddess?
Good question. And off the top of my head, I cannot tell you specifically what Maureen Murdock said, but I can tell you what I took away from it, which comes back to connection.
Right.
Connecting to others, connecting to nature, finding that village, that social circle, that support network, but connecting to people and others. She talks about finding community to celebrate the changing of the seasons, which I loved. Like that marriage of both, right? That I'm connecting to my people. I'm celebrating the nature and the cyclical nature of existing. But also, she talks about, I think it was when she was specifically talking about ancient matrilineal societies and how they celebrated the changing of our bodies also, right? Which makes sense in a matrilineal society that they would do that because women's changes are much more pronounced and easily identifiable, right? We go from prepubescent to pubescent to menopausal, right? It's the maiden mother crone. And so it's very easy to point those out. But in celebrating the changes of being human and of existing through life, and as our bodies and our minds and our spirits make shifts, being able to celebrate and share those with community. I think that's connecting to Goddess.
Yeah, I would see that. Yeah, anytime that we can be connected to other people, connected to the natural rhythm of the earth, to be in the shared space of honoring the sacredness within ourself and the other.
Yes. Yeah.
Definitely. I also am appreciative of the journey to get there.
Yes.
I mean, the way she describes the journey, ogres and dragons.
Yes.
Ouch.
Yes. Yes. I think that was the part in the book that I wrote. Just tag me next time. Because, I felt that one.
Yeah. And there is so much struggle to be able to get to this place of integrating the goddess, of union with the goddess.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the part that I feel like I'm trying to wrap my head around still is also, so you go through the journey, like the trials with the ogres and the dragons, and then you find the illusory boon of success.
Yes.
That's the part where I feel like I'm a little fuzzy on, if I'm being honest.
Okay. So that false boon, right? If we go back to our hero's journey, right? Whatever the boon is, the treasure that we then take into the world and share with our communities. It's the false boon is the like, okay, I've made it in the, at least this is how I view it. I've made it in the ways that, I can take care of myself and my family, maybe have a little extra that I can have fun with, and then I'm still missing something, which, I don't think happens to everybody. Not everybody reaches that place and is like, great, now I've got this void inside of me that hasn't been filled by my money and home and car and whatever else. But that if we reach that place and we still feel that emptiness, then I think that's the like, okay, that was the false boon.
Okay, that makes sense. Right. Okay, I'm connecting it now.
Okay.
Where it's, yes, there is the struggle, there is the arriving the false boon.
Right.
Which then there is like an additional trial there of realizing it's actually not what we sought.
Yeah.
And then by going inside, then there is the awakening that happens. Yeah. That then allows for the union with the goddess.
Right. Which the false boon is what I would call the false success of capitalism, the internalized capitalism, right? If I've done X, Y, and Z, if I've made so much money, if I've bought my house and I've got my car and whatever else, then I will feel good and successful. And that's not always the case, right? We hear over and over again, money doesn't buy happiness, which is true to a certain extent. Money does buy happiness up to the point where our needs are met and we have a little bit more. And then excess money on that does not make us happier.
Right. It allows us to pursue things that bring us joy.
Yes.
In a society that is designed to capitalize on experience.
Right. Right. But I have to wonder with these people that we see hoarding wealth, what is it that makes somebody hoard wealth like that? What is it that is missing inside? Like, you are never in a million lifetimes going to be able to spend $500 billion.
Right.
What do you like? What is it? Blows my mind.
Right.
But yeah, I think that might be reflective of that false boon.
Mm-hmm. Well, even in just the question, because in asking the question, like, what would cause somebody to hoard that much money?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking about a video that I watched of Neil deGrasse Tyson on his show Star Talk.
Okay. Yeah.
And they talked about how much money would you have to spend each day to spend all of that money?
Yeah.
And then how long would it take?
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And then he also did an experiment where he said, if you took all of the money and you like actually printed it out and then you laid it out, how far could you go with it?
Yeah.
And it was like to the moon and back and around the earth. And
Yeah.
It was like some ridiculous. But the thing that when I think about it, like, obviously I don't know any billionaires.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if that is obvious, but I don't know any billionaires.
I don't either. As far as I know, anyway.
Right.
Nobody has told me that they have that much money.
But when I think about the experience of chasing and hoarding money and overexerting in the pursuit of the illusory boon, the thing that always comes up is scarcity.
Right.
Is there some voice inside that says, I will never have enough.
Yeah.
And I have to keep the grind, the hustle going until I get enough.
Right.
But it's always countermanded by the voice of scarcity that says it's not enough yet.
Right.
Because what if something?
Right.
And I need to make sure I have enough just in case. Like,
Right.
oh, I don't have enough yet. And then we're just stuck in this scarcity loop.
Right.
Like, what if I don't feel like I have enough? Let me actually get another job.
Yeah. Yes.
And let me keep hustling. And I have 2 jobs.
Yeah.
Oh, but I'm really worried that I won't have enough.
Yeah.
Let me get a 3rd job.
Yeah. Yes.
And often the sense of scarcity, at least when I am working with people, what I find is that the scarcity can be driven by actual experiences of scarcity. More often, it feels like it's an identity scarcity.
Yes. Which, from the handful of people that I know that have a scarcity kind of complex, they do have an abundance. And there's always this fear of not having enough when they're already in excess. So yes, I think there's a hole there. There's something that's missing, right? And could that be healed by the heroine's journey, by the connection to the feminine? Maybe. It's not going to hurt.
Right.
Right?
Right. But it definitely, when I think about the union with the goddess, I love how you keep going back to connection with it. I also think about other pieces of the goddess that can be lended here. Like, I think about the movie Brave.
Okay.
And when Merida meets the witch in the woods.
Okay.
And goes and asks for this solution to her problem. The witch knows exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
She knows the path that Merida's on and even tries to discourage her. And it isn't until like much later on that this union happens. But it's like there is this element here of knowledge, foresight, wisdom that also, like, the vision that the goddess holds, the perspective, like she is able to see more clearly.
Yeah.
Her vision is unimpeded.
Yeah.
And so there is also what feels like an ability to see ourselves more clearly and to see ourselves, to see others, and also to see how we fit within the whole.
Yeah.
And in that moment, we're able to shed some of the layers.
Yes.
Like the obscured vision that has been driving us so hard.
Yeah. Well, with the hero's journey, we talked about the identity development models, and that final identity development, that like final stage, is often that greater perspective, right? That ability to be able to see where I've come from, what I've gained from it, to have appreciation for it, even if it was oppressive, whatever, having that perspective and compassion, curiosity, and even celebration for all of those different aspects of myself, of society at large, at the others, whatever it is. So I think you're absolutely, yes, 100%.
Right. I mean, the God, like when we talk about wisdom, the God, like there's a goddess of wisdom.
Right.
We talk about the pursuit of wisdom.
Yeah.
We talk about the pursuit of Sophia.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, like who's the God of wisdom? I don't know.
I've never heard of him.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing we talk about, like magic, right?
Right.
We're entering Hecate's cave.
Yes. Yes.
The pursuit of Sophia and entering Hecate's cave.
Yeah.
I feel like there's something there.
Yeah. I think there is.
Mm-hmm. Right. Versus when we look at Athena, Athena's born from Zeus's skull, never acknowledged her mother.
Right.
She came fully formed, armored up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when she saw the union of the masculine and feminine, she cursed the woman and made her into Medusa.
Yeah. Ugh. Which the archetype of Medusa is such an interesting one.
Right.
But yeah, now I want to get into the archetype of Medusa, which is its whole other thing.
Right. Medusa is a complex,
a
very complex
totally
one, yes.
So complex, so interesting, and really is I feel in the last little bit, maybe it's just my own maturity in seeing her differently and seeing her portrayed in the cultural zeitgeist differently. But I feel like there has been a shift in the way that Medusa is portrayed and interpreted.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. But yes. Okay. So the rejection of the feminine, right? Seeing that over and over again, and in a how it leads to not being fully formed, right? And that in the union of both, we see something that is fully formed. In the union of the masculine and the feminine. There was a point in I wanted to talk about the inner man with heart.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is the connection of the masculine and the feminine, right? We're not just talking about feminine. We're not just talking about developing the feminine, even though that is a huge part of the heroine's journey, but also finding the inner man with heart. How did you interpret that? How did that sit with you?
Oh, good question. I mean, one piece of it for me is juxtaposing with the beginning of the journey.
Okay. Yeah.
Like the inner man with heart compared to the over-identifying with the father figure of the patriarchy, which is also wounding as an experience. Right? Like the patriarchy, the expression of masculinity from a patriarchy lens strips men of the heart.
Yes.
And so for the feminine to over-identify with that type of man,
Yeah.
is going to wound her own capacity
Right.
for the masculine within.
Right. Well, and Maureen Murdock, she talks about it like the dry, brittle masculine. It's like the overextended masculine, who has overreached.
Yeah.
Yeah. And needing she calls it the moist, juicy feminine, which I love that. I just thought that was so great. But the moist, juicy, green feminine healing the dry, brittle masculine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And hopefully then finding a green, verdant valley of both.
Right. Which is so needed.
Yeah.
It's like the feminine needs to be able to integrate the mature, sacred masculine just as much as the masculine needs to integrate the mature, sacred feminine.
Yes.
Only here, I feel like because of the seeking the illusory boon early on, the overextending, the hollowing, the withering of energy leading to this depression from pursuing something that is not taking you where you want to go.
Right.
There's a need to be able to heal all of that energy.
Yeah. Yeah. The bringing together. It's not just exiting the heroine's journey as this, divine feminine goddess without the need for that archetypal masculine also with it. But it's, again, coming back to that union of both, giving that heart to the man. I mean, not at the expense of the woman, but like I always think of Moana and Te Fiti. Yeah, where the heart was stolen and it's had to be returned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like if we think about the image of the heart, right? There's a life force there. There's
Right.
like an ability to, like, there's a generativity there, an ability to move life force and energy.
Right.
There's an essence to it.
Yeah.
And so to remove the heart, like, I mean, you dry out. I mean, you think about what happens when the
Yes.
heart stops pumping.
Yeah.
Dry up and
Yeah.
you turn into a mummy and you
Yeah.
are desiccated and gross.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so for the heroine's journey, like, there is a need to breathe life back into those energies that were expended.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so the hero's journey and the heroine's journey end with a sharing of the knowledge gained. In fact, I love that Maureen Murdock, she talks about that, breathing the breath of knowledge into our communities. Because again, we can't heal others, but we can share what we've learned. I know I've said this before, but either came from Glennon Doyle or Brene Brown. One of them said, there's no such thing as one-way liberation. That as we liberate ourselves, we invite others to do the same. And we give that example, that vision, hopefully, to others, that as I've liberated myself, and specifically for the heroine's journey, because it is so much about connection to our people, to our communities, whatever else, it's imperative that we share that.
Yeah. Here's my question then.
Okay.
In a world where we are experiencing so much pseudo connection,
Yes.
how do we then do that?
Oh, good question. Well, practice is what I would say. Practice, practice, practice. Keep doing it, because anything worth doing is worth doing poorly, right? That hopefully, as we do it and do it more, we will recognize the pseudo connection and the genuine connection.
I am also curious for you, like, are there experiences that you find where this, like, that you experience personally, where you see this happening?
I can look back on my life and the connections I have made, and I can see now with perspective the connections that were surface level, that weren't necessarily helping myself or the other person to grow, versus the ones that have done that. And again, I think that comes with time and practice and experience and having a little bit of both. Not every connection we have is going to be a soul deep and, learning and growing together, challenging each other kind of a connection. And that's okay, right? We need a variety and a lot of different kinds of connections to be whole, well-rounded individuals and communities. So I kind of laugh because it's always going to come back to mindfulness and that mind-body connection, right? How do I feel when I am in these connections? How do I feel when I am sitting with others? And is it bringing me greater joy, peace, and liberation or not?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think sometimes there is a real struggle around it too.
Yeah.
I mean, what we're talking about is really powerful. It's really beautiful.
Yeah.
And also, sometimes I think it can feel like, what? How's somebody going to respond to this?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Am I going to get put into the, am I going to put on the woo-woo list?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Of the, oh my gosh, I can't even talk to this person.
Yeah.
They're not connected to reality.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've found that helps me is by asking other people questions about their experience.
Yep.
Just as a way to try and find some of those kindred spirits.
Yeah. Well, and this is what I tell people all the time because I've learned it for myself is that your authenticity, your vulnerability is your litmus test, right? And sharing those weird, wonderful parts of myself, I'm going to see who's my people and who's my not. And that's a whole lot easier to do now in my 40s than it was to do as a teenager or even in my 20s, right? That fear of rejection is a lot stronger, I think, when you're younger, right? You reach a certain age and you just don't care anymore.
Sure.
It's too tiring to wear the mask. I only want to be authentic and to be myself. And if people are good with that, great, awesome, they're my people. And if they're not, that's okay. I hope they go and find their people.
Yeah. I do find that when we are willing to be our authentic selves, people who want to be in connection with us in that in that space they'll work to connect with us.
Yeah.
And the people who don't will not.
Yeah.
Like I think about even just some of my experiences during the week with peers or other friends and things like that, like a game night or at work or whatever. And, there are people that I feel like they're just not interested in talking to me.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Not that we're not cordial, not that we're not friendly with each other.
Yes.
When we run into each other, we can have really kind, genuine conversation.
Yeah.
That expresses some interest.
Yeah.
At the level that feels appropriate in those moments.
I remember when that shift happened for me, when I moved away from, no, everybody has to like me and want to talk to me and want to be my friend to oh, it's okay. And I think I was probably 27, 28, and I certainly wasn't any good at it when that shift first happened. But I do remember being oh, and I think it had to do with ice cream. And I was like, oh, this person doesn't like my flavor of ice cream. That doesn't mean I'm not a good ice cream that other people will enjoy. I'm just not their flavor. And it was okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Which is really important. It's really healthy.
Yeah.
We can't actually be friends with and be liked by everybody.
Yeah. And that's okay.
I mean, maybe in some level we wish we could be.
Sure.
But can you imagine having billions of people in your contact list?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
It just becomes impossible.
Oh, totally.
And it's let's say that I work with 30 people.
Yeah.
And I have 4 or 5 people that I'm pretty close to out of 30 people.
Yeah.
That's actually really a good group of people.
No, it really is. I heard somebody say, I think it was an anthropological, study analysis, that we're really only wired for about 150 connections. And that's connections of any kind, right? The people that are close to us are even a smaller, much, much smaller number than that. But we think about people's Facebook friends. I think right now I've got 600 or something. I never get on Facebook anymore. Right? But at one time I had cultivated that many connections. That's ridiculous.
And it's it makes sense that we would be able to have intimate connections with a smaller group of people.
Right.
And also that we'll find ourselves rubbing shoulders with people that maybe we only see periodically.
Yeah.
But they in that rubbing of shoulders, that coming together, there is a sharing and growing together.
Yes.
That we then take with us when we don't see each other for months or years.
Yes.
But then when we're with the people that we do spend the majority of our time with, that influence is felt.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so the heroine's journey is the healing of that connection to the internalized feminine, which then helps to heal the internalized masculine also, so that we have this idealized union of them, which in turn leads to connection to our communities, connection to earth and to nature, connection to ritual, to the changing of seasons, whether they're external or internal, but it's connection and it's union.
Mm-hmm. And one of the words that I love the most that is unique to the heroine's journey is initiation,
Yes.
where the hero's journey is a marriage.
Yes.
The heroine's journey is an initiation.
Ooh, okay. So what does initiation mean to you?
That's such a good question. How would I put this? Well, an initiation is a ritual of transformation.
Right.
Initiation is stepping from one world into another world.
Yeah.
And it is really intentional. And I think here, when we look at initiation, we're saying, like, we're stepping within. We're being given, we're experiencing the transformation by which we now have consistent, intentional access
Yeah.
to the wisdom and the magic of the goddess within.
Yeah. So I think of initiation as you've done the things and now you're part of the club.
Mm-hmm.
Which, what a great club to be a part of.
Mm-hmm.
A club where we embrace the feminine, the archetypal feminine, where we embrace the emotion, the experience of being.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, please initiate me into that club.
Well, I mean, and I don't want to speak for you.
Okay.
I would love to share my perception with you.
Okay, please do.
Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Consent granted.
Okay. My perception, like the way that I experience being with you,
Mm-hmm.
is what I imagine the other side of this initiation feels like from another person.
Aw.
Where there is someone who is very in tune with their body experience
Mm-hmm.
and is able to embrace and embody these kind of sacred or divine attributes in
Yeah.
the world in a way that is very healing to themselves and others,
Mm-hmm.
and is able to like press into the dysfunction of the whole.
Yeah.
So that's so for me, like the way that I perceive you
Yeah.
is someone who has gone through iterative experiences of this initiation. Now that's my perception.
Yeah. Well, I
I'm
appreciate
curious.
that. I appreciate that a lot because I do feel like I have been through this process more than once. And it's really an interesting experience to be reading about it and going like, oh yeah, I've definitely done that. And oh yeah, I've been there and I've experienced that. And holy cow, I think I'm right in the middle of it again. That this isn't a one and done experience. And I don't think the hero's journey is either. That they are experiences that happen over and over again, and that we do end up with new versions of ourselves over and over again. And sometimes it's a progression and sometimes it's a regression. And that's okay as long as we're always still moving. So I really appreciate that a lot. And also definitely feel like I am right smack dab in the middle of it again.
Yeah.
Fighting those ogres and looking for that union of the archetypal masculine and feminine again.
Yeah. Which I can appreciate that struggle.
Yeah.
Because it is cyclical.
Yes.
Like in both hero and the heroine's journey. Like it's interesting when you look at it depicted, it's cyclical.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's actually no point at which the arrows stop.
Right. Yeah.
They just keep going around and
Yeah.
around. But the image is actually not 2-dimensional, it's 3-dimensional.
Right.
Where we have the spiral,
Yes.
which interestingly, the spiral is the union of the masculine and feminine.
Yes.
Because it is like circular and directional.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, yes. It's such a beautiful experience. It's a beautiful journey. It's so magical, and is not to say it's easy.
No.
It is exhausting.
Sometimes it is, right?
Yeah.
Particularly when we're on the backside of the spiral, right? Like
Yeah.
the dark side of the spiral.
Yeah.
The underworld piece.
Yeah.
I don't think it's problematic to say, like, it's really hard in there.
Yeah.
And also, like, the other side of it is worth the hard.
Yeah. Yes, I do know that. Sometimes hard to remember, even in knowing it.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
it's like, it feels like you're wandering a swamp in the dark.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Wandering a swamp in the dark. Swamps aren't fun, but in the dark.
Which had that experience. Yeah. A long time ago, they were like, here's a map, here's a compass. There's the course. And I didn't realize it. And it was definitely a swamp.
Literally navigating a swamp in the dark.
Literally navigating a swamp in the dark. And I had like injured my ankle beforehand. And I'm wandering around for hours in the dark in the swamp. And I kept stepping into like random pockets of water.
Ugh.
I would like run into like these bramble bushes or like the swamp trees, you know, or just like, and then you gotta like backtrack and wander around. And I remember at one point just like stopping and like letting myself cry in the dark at one point. And this is an army course, but there's not supposed to be any tears.
Yeah.
It was like, it was
no crying in the army.
right. But it was dark and no one could tell. And I was by myself in the swamp.
I'm so glad that you took that time to do that.
Right. I do remember it was like, okay, like I get to make a choice.
Mm-hmm.
What am I going to do?
Yeah.
And the first time I did a nightly Nev course in this series that I did, I was like, you know what? I injured my ankle. Like I'm winning by such a massive margin. I actually can take last place in this event and still win. I don't care. I'm cold. I'm tired. It's dark. I'm hungry. I hurt, whatever. And I went and got in the truck and took a nap.
Nice.
And I learned absolutely nothing. And then I got to this next level. I plotted all of my points backwards.
Yeah.
Because I was rusty.
Yeah.
And they looked at me and they were like, what's wrong with you? Like, are you an idiot? And I was like, maybe. And then I went into this night course in a swamp in the dark. It wasn't nice and easy. There weren't any roads.
Yeah.
It was really hard.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Like I get a chance here. I can wander in the dark for the allotted time that I have.
Yeah.
And then I came out and I had not done as well as I wanted. And then the sun came up.
Yeah.
And they bandaged my ankle up for me.
Yeah.
And I moved on and I was like, you know what? Like I feel a little transformed from this experience.
Well, of course. Good job.
But it's also like, I feel like sometimes though, like we find ourselves in that.
Yeah.
Right? Where we're like, we feel really alone.
Yeah.
In the swamp
at
night. And we're like, I'm tangled up in a tree.
Yeah.
In ankle deep water.
Yeah.
I can't see anything.
Yeah.
And the whole time, the medics were like a quarter mile away from me.
Oh my gosh. Okay, what a great metaphor for the dark night of the soul, right? Feeling so alone, feeling so lost, not being able to see your way out or through. And then the sun comes up and you're like, are you freaking kidding me? You were a quarter mile away the whole time. What a apropos metaphor for this experience.
Yeah. And like that was actually a really transformative experience for me.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. I mean, one, I learned a lot about myself.
Yeah.
Because we went right into like a hand-to-hand combat tournament after that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like exhausted and injured and I'm somehow winning.
Good job.
Right? Against really tall people.
Yeah.
But it was like, but the thing that I really learned about myself, it wasn't about that. It was like, oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
But it was like in the darkness, I feel like I found that there was something missing.
Yeah.
Like in that swamp in North Carolina, it was like, why am I here?
Yeah.
Like not physically, why am I, like physically, yes. Like what am I doing here?
Yeah.
But like what on earth is happening inside of me that it would put me in this place at this time.
Yeah.
And like the wrestle was real for a while after that.
Yeah.
But like I can go back to that swamp and be like, it's interesting what happened after that.
Right.
Where it really took me on this course that ended me where I am now.
Uh-huh.
But I had to be in the swamp miserable.
Yes. Yes. Which that's exactly what Maureen Murdock would say is the heroine's journey. I cannot tell you how glad I am to have you in my life. As somebody who has experienced the metaphorical and the literal swamp and that journey, being able to like share those experiences and reflect on them with you is just such a treasure to me.
Yeah.
Thanks for being someone I can connect to.
Yeah. I'm so glad to have you as well.
Yeah.
I feel like we help each other a lot.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think we do. Ooh, thank goodness.
But I'm also really grateful that you feel that way.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Good job.
yeah, the journey's real.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard, but it's
Yeah.
always beautiful at the end.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Find your people along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Find those connections. And if you mess up a couple of times, just keep going.
As you reflect on this conversation, you might notice where the themes of the heroine's journey are showing up in your own life. For many people, the path towards success or belonging begins by adapting to systems that reward productivity, competition, and independence. And over time, that adaptation can come at a cost, distancing us from intuition, embodiment, creativity, or relationship. The heroine's journey reminds us that growth isn't only about pushing forward. Sometimes it's about returning, recovering parts of ourselves that were set aside in order to survive or succeed. If this episode resonated with you, consider sharing it with someone who might be navigating their own process of reclaiming and integration. And if you haven't already listened to our previous episode on the hero's journey, you might find that the two conversations illuminate each other in some meaningful ways. Thanks for listening to our conversation on the heroine's journey. And as always, keep delving deep and embracing the journey.